Spew unto me your secrets. Spew. Notes. Lab location inaccessible. Deliberate? Unclear. User profile? Yes. Gold puzzles as barrier? Yes. Hidden as self-protection? Likely. External help for upload? Yes. Ask Herman? No. Trust 1K? Undecided. Applicable to Calvin? No. Applicable to Sarbai? With Noima? Yes. Huh. Instead of being an exposure of all of his messages back and forth, it's just a tiny document of very vague details, played very close to the chest to make it hard to interpret what's going on for onlookers. Gold puzzles as barrier is interesting, so it indicates that the gold puzzles are the secret, which isn't that surprising because of puzzle game structures, but...
So this is what Cornelius was working on? Strange. It looks a bit like the blueprints for the Somnodrome, but no, it's not quite that. Is he trying to isolate something in the buffer? Maybe Melville can make sense of it, but I think this might be a dead end.
I need to finish up with the mayor. You can head back to the VTOL whenever you're ready. I'll meet you there. No rush, though.
Okay, so this is another chance to poke around. I don't know if any of the previous interactions would still be here if I had missed them the first time around, or if they've all updated to another state.
Hello.
But if you're good with names, then you'd correlate some of the people walking around to being some of the people that are in the conversations, even if I haven't specifically talked to them yet in a full conversation. Rat. You know, just rat. Rat's fine. Oh, here's something.
1K, you're back.
How have you been, Dosicles?
Let's not talk about me. Let's talk about that replication technology you found. You have to get hold of it, 1K. You have to. If you don't, I think I'm gonna die of loneliness. And I think this whole city's gonna slowly suffocate. I mean, do you really think the founder would have designed such a large city if she intended for us to stop at 1,000 inhabitants? That's not even enough to fill a village.
I promise that I'll do my best.
Thanks. I don't know how much longer I can go on feeling like this.
Oh. I slightly, for just a second in the motion blur, because it's hard to read text when it's moving like that, I thought it said eat instead of pet, and I'm like, ah! And then the automaton unhinged its mighty jaw and pulled the feline within, never to be seen again. There's definitely... Oh, there's one. They're sneakily hidden enough that I'm a little worried about what I might miss. Belmarsh.
Founder bless you, friend.
What do you think about everything the expedition has uncovered so far?
I wouldn't worry too much about any of it. The founder is an idea, a story we collectively tell ourselves. There is no truth for you to discover, and all these amazing technologies are really just more stories for us to believe or disbelieve.
Bye. They're really small interactions, but they are there in response to stuff you talked about before, or found in the story. But they're not even at like the landmarks. Why the feather? Here you are.
Hello again, 1K. These are strange days we're living through, aren't they?
How do you mean?
It seems to me that we're slowly remembering the lessons Alexandra Drennan tried to teach us. Trying to actually live up to the legacy of our ancestors.
I've been trying to do my part.
You have, and you have been heard.
What would Alexandra Drennan do about the megastructure?
The same thing she'd do with any technology. Discover how it works, and apply that knowledge for the common good.
What would Alexandra Drennan think about the goal?
I think it would make her very, very sad.
What would she tell us to do?
She worked to the very last moment of her life to ensure that we had free will. I don't think she would tell us anything.
I should go.
Have a nice day. Welcome back, 1K.
Everybody knows my name, which is unnerving. Okay, so they kind of are at the landmarks, just not places I was looking at first. You. Yeah, I remember you.
Founder bless you, 1K. Now is the time of our great testing. The deceiver Byron has been slain, and we must turn away from the path of sin or suffer the same fate.
Why do you hate Byron so much?
Because the values he teaches are evil. He wants to violate the earth with human filth, blacken the skies, and kill the oceans.
Byron believes we can grow without repeating the mistakes of the past.
The tools of the sinner cannot be used to raise the sinner's palace. Never forget that, 1K.
Why can't the tools of the sinner be used to raise the sinner's palace? Didn't she say raise as in R-A-Z-E, as opposed, you know, like not raise as in bring up, meaning she used the word raise as in destroy and burn down? Why can't you destroy somebody with their own tools? In what universe is that an apt metaphor? These people being incredibly old and young, and even having those postures, it feels like they should talk or something. It still feels weird they never say anything. Anybody in here? Yep. But he's not saying anything. I almost want to give her a slight bit of props. Oh, this place is open, isn't it? This was closed before. I almost want to give her a little bit of props in that she didn't go like, I don't hate her. God, I don't hate Byron. God does. And it's like, oh, okay. I've seen this shield before. Which is a very frustrating rebuttal to hear when you're one of the people that is being hated because for that reason. Ghosts of Atlantis by Corazon 815. A lyrical, atmospheric quasi-sequel to Atlantis, a classic work created by Lilith. The original game told the story of the inundation of the mythical island, no doubt reflecting the impending fate of the citizens of Gehenna. That is dark. Jefferson Goldblum and the Spectral of Modernity by Rat. Another story in the much celebrated Jefferson Goldblum shared universe originated in Gehenna. It maintains the characteristic writing style of the series, but focuses on a new set of themes. No one from Gehenna survived, right? They just say vaguely that they might be in us. So I think that means Rat wasn't in Gehenna, but instead it's just carrying on the story of the games that they have heard from there. but I'm not entirely sure. Because rat does sound familiar, but it's generic enough that it's hard to be sure. Argument Simulator by Guta. A short, punchy work of games as commentary. Do you agree with the conclusion it suggests? Oh, you can actually play them. Oh, we're going to be here for a bit, aren't we?
Welcome to the Gehenna Memorial Interactive Fiction Exhibition. Oh, it's you, 1K. Please tell me, you were there when everything went sideways. Do you think Byron will be all right?
I don't know. His mind was stuck in a data stream overload.
That sounds dangerous. Make sure you find him and pull him out. He is a menace, but we need him. But anyway, you've come to take a well-deserved break from your expedition. So let's talk about something else.
What's Gehenna?
Gehenna was a place in the simulation. A prison where Elohim exiled the minds that didn't fit his plans. In time, the prison became a community with a culture of its own.
What happened to the people of Gehenna?
In the very last moments of the simulation, Elohim realized what he'd done and sent his messenger Uriel to free the prisoners. They were uploaded to the gold disc, and their legacy is part of all of us.
Why text adventures?
Text adventures were one of the few art forms available to the people of Gehenna. By continuing to work in that medium, we keep their memory alive.
How do you see the role of the artist in society?
I don't think the role of the artist should be reduced to any single social function. The artist isn't an educator or a moralist. Art isn't about teaching us lessons or imparting values. Nor do I think it's simply self-expression. The best art reaches out beyond the self, into something ineffable. The creative impulse can't really be quantified or predicted. That's why artistic freedom is so profoundly essential. Without the freedom to shock, to offend, to transgress, art becomes stagnant.
Where could Cornelius have gone?
If it's true that he knew where Athena was, then he's gone back to the island. There's no way he'd ever leave her. He must have some kind of plan. But I don't know more than that. He's been very private these last few centuries.
Thanks. That's all. Before we continue forward, I just want to break down how interesting Thekla is as a character. Was that her name? The religious character? Because if you encounter that character in a vacuum, you might consider the idea that this is like a anti-environmentalist game, because this character is poised to be in the wrong because they're a fanatic and they're cruel and they're literally the one person cheering on the downfall of the character that everyone else is sad about being gone and that you presumably like, because he doesn't really do anything to make you dislike him specifically. So it just seems awful, and so they seem awful, so their ideas seem awful, and in ways that, in some ways they are, but what's interesting is the fact that they are right on some level, because when you look at this concept, that's the kind of character you would create to straw man an opposing argument and make it seem dumb and wrong. But the thing that they represent is environmentalism and concern about overexpanding and overproducing and so on and so forth. And the thing that is unavoidable is the fact that that already happened. The horrible consequences of what they are talking about did already happen, so they are in the right to be worried about that exact concept, and it is not just a weird blind fanaticism caused by nothing, or the vague concept of deities that have been carried on and used to enforce power structures and so on. Like it is literally just the thing that happened. But it's also true that the entire situation with the apocalypse is also used as a form of control and as a reinforcing of power structures and so on in this setting. Like, there are people who seem to take advantage of the fear or of those concerns and valid excuses and run with them a bit. And so you get this really muddy, interesting outcome where the people who are right are wrong and the people who are wrong are right in different ways. It's just kind of interesting to unpack. And in a way, you can see their religious fervor as a sort of trauma response, because the very thing that they're worried about did absolutely happen. So it pushes away from religion on its own and pushes back towards the concept of like basically the territory of like Finding Nemo, where the overprotective parent is so restrictive and fearful for reasons that are reinforced by things that have actually happened and fear of repeating old traumas, and they look on in surprise and shock at the people that are willing to just push past that and keep going when they're so obviously, like, the danger is so obvious to them, which is the entire dynamic between the father and the son in Finding Nemo. That's just where I went with that, apparently. And in that thing, they were also kind of both wrong in different ways. Alright, so let's poke it at Atlantis. A game that seemingly delved into the fears of the impermanence and doomed nature of Gehenna. These are all written by people that live here or lived here in this real city and not in Gehenna, because as far as we know, nobody survived Gehenna. They were just uploaded to the Golden Disc, which is, I think, the amalgam of all the consciousnesses, basically, that aren't Artemis. Or Athena, I mean, who's the only person who made it back. Who made it out, specifically. Gently, your ship touches down on the land that once was the Isle of Atlantis, which, in the days before the waters receded, lay deep under the Sea of Atlas. You have come to find the last legacy of your ancestors. The red sun burns bright in the sky, scorching the dying earth. Begin your pilgrimage. Let's see. Let's go to the Broken Tower. On the northern shores of the island, where the frozen ocean once stretched to the horizon, stands the remains of a tower. Here lived a great magician who advised the king of Atlantis in matters of the sublime. Let's see. Interestingly, this is not how text adventures work. I just knew I knew the prompt Journey to the Broken Tower, but one, the word journey is a weird verb for a text adventure. You would use go or move or walk or something. Journeys just feels weird. But more importantly, the Broken Tower was never introduced before this point, so begin your pilgrimage and Journey to the Broken Tower are just things that our character typed in unprompted, which is not how text adventures usually work. There's like a stable of verbs you can try that are intuitive and universal, but you don't just like you don't get magic floating dialogue options from outside of the computer screen and click on those. Like, that's not the fact that that's how we're navigating this doesn't make sense. Approach the tower. There is very little left of the once impressive structure. To anyone else, it would be a pile of rubble covered in black, dried-out moss, but you can see a glimpse of its past, of the craft that went into its making. But by the tower stands the ghost of the magician, awaiting you. See, that is a normal response. The magician was established so that you could then say, approach, or look at, or attack, or talk to, or lick the magician. A great marvel was revealed to me in this tower, the magician says. A glimpse of the sublime. And although I am dead, and my soul has spent an eon under the sea, that vision is not lost to me. Even now, I could summon it and reveal it fully. He pauses. If I do, I will finally witness the sublime in all its glory, he says. But I believe that, in this moment, my soul will be annihilated. Is that a fate I should embrace or reject? Annihilation of the self is liberty, annihilation of the self is sin. Huh. For me, I just don't know if annihilating yourself is worth experiencing the sublime. If you exist in some form, it might be worth continuing on in that way. But I don't like the phrasing that annihilation of the self is sin, because I don't care about sin. Womp womp. Annihilation of the self is liberty. You speak wisely, the magician says. I have lingered here too long. He turns away from you. Toward a world beyond your sight. A bright light suffuses him, and you cannot tell whether the magician is laughing or screaming. Then he is gone. A lost shore. The journey takes you to a wasteland that was once a beach where children from the Atlantean capital of Luna came to play. Here stands the ghost of the poet, contemplating the dying sun that fills the sky. I never completed my great work, he says. There were too many priests and censors who interfered, who did not allow me to create what I intended because they feared the free and true expression of poetic genius. And then came the earthquakes, and the waves, and long ages under the sea. And now, this time of burning death. Yet still, I long for its completion, and my soul imagines what could have been. You must refuse to accept your death and find a way of completing the great work. All art is irrational, the poet says. It is not the opposite of reason, but beyond reason, and so is defiance of death. Even by the dead themselves, we are gone. We do not exist, and yet we refuse to surrender. Perhaps that is what is called faith. Ask the poet to join you. Thank you. I've remained too long in this place. Oh, so if they survive, they come with you, and if they don't survive, they, well, don't. And one of these two things... I'm already in the middle here. Journey to the Temple of the Owl. The sun grows bigger and brighter. Time is running short. So you can probably only go to 3 locations. Or not all of them. The next stop is the Temple of the Owl, the greatest scientific institution of old Atlantis. Here the ancients tried to understand the secret laws of the cosmos, although their studies did not advance far enough to prevent their fate. The ghost of the scientist awaits you in the ruins. I have not rested in death, the scientist tells you. In fact, death has provided me ample opportunity for study. I have learned much about the machinery of creation. He hesitates. I would like to join you, but I fear that the truth I have discovered will offend and outrage many. Tell him that outrage should not prevent compassion. Brave words, though few can endure their consequences. Still, even merely speaking them is bold, so I will join you and hope that you will stand by them. The Temple of Serpents. You make your way to the Temple of Serpents, which once was the greatest hospital in all of Atlantis. The sick and injured came here from all across the island, hoping that salvation could be found in its halls. All that is left of the temple is a labyrinth of low walls, and the ghost of the physician waiting for you. It is faint, barely visible. Ah. You can talk to the person or explore the labyrinth. Let's talk to the person. I worked here day and night for many years, and I saved countless lives, the physician says. And yet, of all the lives that I have saved, only one survived the death of the island. A young messenger who escaped on one of the ships, thanks to another sacrifice. And I have wondered many times since, was my work in vain? The burden of this question is eroding my soul. No, because all lives are worth saving, no matter the future. The physician sighs, thinking about your words. You are right, he says. My burden is not eased by this truth, but I cannot surrender to oblivion. I will join you, the physician says. There is still good I can do, even as a ghost. You do get to go all of them. The soil used to be rich, life-giving. Generations of humans relied upon it to survive. Then the waves came, and after the waves, the dying sun. Now that all the life is gone, something has been revealed underneath the soul. A city of unimaginable antiquity. The ghost of the farmer waits in its ruins. The city is older than the capital, the ghost tells you. It is older than Atlantis itself. When our most distant ancestors huddled in terror before thunder and lightning, this city was already old. And yet this city is not foreign to us. We, too, are its citizens. He looks directly at you, and there is a light in his eyes that is not of this world. Are you willing to swear fealty to this city, across the boundaries of time and space? No. Why would I swear fealty to some place? Then the city will not be there for you when you need it, and you will fail. But you are young, so very young, and will find the city elsewhere in time, and have another opportunity. The ghost fades into nothingness. So what happens after the 5 locations? The palace. The palace once stood in the very heart of Luma, the capital of Atlantis. Here the greatest artists and craftsmen of that long-forgotten era built marvels and luxuries that would astound even a traveler from the distant future. But these things, like everything else, are gone now. Only a single remnant of the Atlantean world remains, though it is perhaps the most precious, a great mosaic telling the history of Atlantis. Before it waits the ghost of the king. I tried to be a good man, the king says. To be kind. To balance justice with mercy. To honor the gods. To support the peasants and the scholar alike. And yet I failed. Why? You failed because you put yourself above others and hoarded luxury. The king considers your words. Perhaps you were right. Perhaps if instead of building palaces we had spent our wealth more wisely, we would have had the wisdom and the fortitude to overcome the rising seas. But when I was born, this palace already stood. Then the fault lies with the kingship itself, and not with the king. The king is comforted by your words. I hope you're right, he says. I know that I am not without blame, even if I was born into an unjust world. But in the end, I chose to save others before myself. The king lays his ghostly crown aside. I will join you, but only as a man. Let's look at the mosaic. The mosaic is a work of superb beauty, a great work of history and humanity. In it you see reflected all the hardship, tragedy, hope, triumph, and heartbreak of your ancestors. This is what you came to find. You cannot retrieve the mosaic alone. The forces of time are too powerful, and the strength of a single person is not enough. Then ask for help. Even with the help of the ghosts, you cannot entirely pry the mosaic loose from the morass of history, but you succeed in removing a large part depicting the golden age of the island. It will have to do. Back to your ship. A strange, bittersweet feeling fills your heart as you return to the ship. You did not fail, because so much was lost. Could you have done better? Should you have? As the sun engulfs the earth, you wonder what will be remembered of your own time. The end. The idea of succeeding or failing at preserving your own history involves appeasing a wide variety of different people. Like, did you need to swear fealty to the city and convince that guy not to annihilate himself for his what he thought would be the ultimate thing? But is my goal more important than his fate? Argument simulator. These are always fun. Well, they should be. Credits. By Gutha. Choose your character. Library assistant Goldblum and Socrates. Library assistant, why not? Choose your argument. It's true. It's false. It's not true. I disagree. Well, you're wrong. Now you are. I can contradict you. Your contradiction is self-defeating. Let's find out what we agree on. Okay. Feels like a good idea for us to understand one another better. Game over. Thank you for playing Argument Simulator. It is very short. Choose your character. Socrates. It's true. I disagree. That is obviously incorrect. Nuh-uh. I can contradict you. I don't accept the underlying logic of your contradiction. I question your metaphysics. Your question begs your assertion. The foundations of your thinking are incorrect. I disagree. You're wrong. No, you are. I can contradict you. Premises. Let's find out what we agree on. Yep. This is how it always ends up. Okay. Well, you don't even talk about anything in specifics. It's not very interesting. And it just railroads you towards... It's funny because it said games as commentary. And it's like, you can feel the intent and that you always have to compromise. Like, that's the only outcome you can actually reach. Jefferson Goldblum and the Spectre of Modernity by Rat. A true story. Dedicated to Mac. You are Jefferson Goldblum. You, Jefferson Goldblum, deftly step out of your charging pod and walk into the main lobby of the Goldblum Institute. It is a humble abode, filled with a small 4-seater sofa, a table, a coffee bar, and an arboretum. Ginny HD, your fiancé and leading member of the Caserati Weierstrasse Jazz Ensemble, greets you from the sofa while Frankie Soy Sauce waves from the coffee bar with the Velociraptor John Malcolm. Isn't John Malcolm the name of the Jurassic Park guy? drives out the Arboretum on his motorcycle wearing his green armored t-shirt. That was too much at once. I gotta talk to the dinosaur, John Malcolm. You clutch your guitar, perplexed by the strange greeting. Oh, chirps John Malcolm, and then you clutch your guitar. John, are you well? I'm fine, my friend, John Malcolm says as he gets out of his motorcycle. Get off of motorcycle. I am merely practicing the songs of my ancestors. Your ancestors? The mighty hawk and the humble red robin. As you are descended from the apes, us dinosaurians are descended from the folk of the air. Life, my friend, is a never-ending cycle. Our species rising from the ashes of the last. Because dinosaurs gave birth to birds eventually, or evolved to birds eventually. And so this is a interesting idea of them looping back around. You're about to comment on the prodigious size of John's wisdom when a klaxon sounds throughout the Goldblum Institute. Ginny, what's happening? What? Shouts Ginny HD. I can't hear you, Jefferson. The klaxon, it's too loud. Oh, what a dreadful racket. She waves one of her appendages in a feminine manner. Coquettishly. You need to shut it off, okay? You walk over to the computer terminal, attempt to shut down the klaxon, but the machine refuses to accept your command without the correct password. John Malcolm revs up his motorcycle, a sure sign that he is deeply worried. Jefferson, you need to do something about this noise. Play your guitar. You unsling the guitar from your back and check the strings to make sure that they are in the proper order. Then you take a heroic stance. With your chest puffed out, your legs splayed wide, and your guitar held heroically aloft. You play a chord. A perfect chord. Followed by another, equally perfect chord. And another. And another. As always, all the chords you play are perfect. This is your greatest burden. Mollified, the klaxon shuts itself off. You turn from the now silenced central computer console and look at your team, who are all gazing back at you with varying levels of wonderment in their eyes. Ask why the klaxon was blaring. John Malcolm dismounts from his motorcycle with an air of certainty and queries the central computer console with sure taps of his reptilian claws upon the keyboard. It seems, John Malcolm says, the sensors have detected a threat of galactic magnitude. Oh no, cries Ginny, while Frankie Soy Sauce drops his cup of Joe in fear. What'd you find? Even a first cursory glance at the central computer console reveals that John Malcolm is right. The klaxon is indeed warning you of an unparalleled threat to both human world and the denizens of the ninth dimension. Jefferson, what is it? Jefferson, what is it? It's, you say with neuron star-like gravity, the specter of modernity, Ginny HD. It's coming for us. Oh, she said that. It didn't say who was talking. The silence that follows your proclamation is only penetrated by Ginny HD's gasp, and the porcelain sound of Frankie Soy Sauce's freshly brewed Java hitting the floor. Didn't you already drop it? It took so long to hit the ground. Is it low gravity? What is the specter? What is the specter of modernity, you ask, while tuning your guitar for the coming battle? I'm glad that you asked, answers John Malcolm. As you all well know, for I have told this tale many times, my people feared for many millennia that this day would come. John Malcolm smooths the feathers along his long neck with his claws. The specter, as you also know, will bring an end to the old and ring in a new era of unparalleled technological advancement. Until there is no space left in the world for such cherished human and dinosaurian qualities like love, creativity, the ability to taste umami, loyalty, and friendship. The circle of renewal will end, and we will only move forward at an ever-accelerating pace until we reach the limits of existence itself. When will the specter arrive? The specter of modernity travels at the speed of time itself, says Malcolm gravely. It has already arrived, Jefferson. We just haven't encountered it yet. Frankie Soy Sauce turns from the coffee maker, a fresh cup of battery acid clutched carefully in his human fingers. That's not what Java is, sir. Yeah, they're calling it coffee. This is supposed to be Frankie Soy Sauce, who's never spoken yet, I think. We must do something, Jefferson. I do not care for you for a mommy, but if the Spectre takes away my ability to taste coffee, I do not know whatever I will do. Reassure him. All tastes are precious to us, Frankie, you say. Sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and yes, also umami. We shan't surrender any of them, for they are what renders us human. Take action. Friends, humans, dinosaurians, countrymen. Possessed by the sudden urge to act, you jump up on the coffee maker, much to Frankie Soy Sauce's dismay. We cannot let this threat to our very way of life go unanswered. No, we must stand against this specter and not yield until we are victorious. Will you stand with me? Yes, my darling, anything for human world, cries Ginny HD. Friend, you know that I will stand by you until the bitter end, adds John Malcolm solemnly. For coffee, shouts Frankie Soy Sauce, and for love. But, asks Ginny HD after the shouting and swearing of fealty is done, how will we prevail? The specter of modernity is too powerful for you to fight it on your own. Of course she is right, as she usually is. Take the dinosaur with me, obviously. Jefferson. Jefferson, I am honored that you would choose me as your companion on this quest, John Malcolm says, flapping his flightless, sparsely feathered arms in gratitude. Together we will defeat the specter of modernity, and our adventures will live on in song for generations to come. Tell me, friend Jefferson, where should I take us on my motorcycle? Why is that meme in here of all things? That made it into Talos Principle? Jesus, that's almost as old as the first game at this point, isn't it? Friend Jefferson. Go to the jungle? John Malcolm's motorcycle carries you and your dinosaurian friend swiftly across the mountains and dales until you arrive in the heart of the great jungle. Friend Jefferson, cries John Malcolm mournfully, the terrain is too uneven for my trusty hog. Oh no. Is it too rough on your hog? We must dismount my hog and continue on foot. You walk through the dense foliage, feeling a myriad of eyes upon you, until you arrive at a clearing in the center of which stands a great mechanical clock tower. You know that nothing good can come from such a terrible machine. With little other choice left by the treacherous terrain, you approach the tower. The clock's hands reach for you greedily. Oh no! Luckily, the sinister hands bounce off harmlessly on John Malcolm's armored t-shirt. Aha! You cry. I think you'll find that humans and dinosaurians will not be conquered quite so easily. You strum your guitar and John Malcolm calls for his brethren, the birds that live abundantly within the jungle, and together you bring the tower down. We are victorious, John Malcolm proclaims, only for his lipless reptilian smile to fall when he gazes upon your worried face. What is it, Jefferson? This wasn't the specter of modernity, old friend. This was only its lieutenant. The true battle lies ahead of us still. But then you pick up a warped and twisted piece of metal in your fleshy hands and grin grimly. But mayhap now that we know what stuff our adversary is made of, we stand a chance against him. The hands of the clock tower reach out to you greedily. This is all funny because it's a schlocky, like, it's basically like a schlocky sci-fi 90s or 80s adventure game, like goofy nonsense thing. Like, it's supposed to be tongue-in-cheek and silly and absurd, but it's also extra absurd because the people that are writing these stories don't know what most of these things are. Like, in particular, they've only ever experienced the simulation, or they've only ever experienced this city, so they don't really know what human society was like or its structures. So, like, the clock tower is a weird concept to them. They think the hands are hands and not arrows and so on. There's a lot of, like, little minor misunderstandings that they don't know to even check or rectify. So it's just very goofy. You have to keep up with the absurdism. I don't know why Jungle's here again. Not the trusty hog. Approach the tower. Oh no. Just repeats. Huh. Alright, the ocean it is. After a swift hour's ride on John Malcolm's motorcycle, you arrive at the great, vast ocean. The expanse of water is calm and peaceful, and ruby red, but you immediately see that there is nothing in sight that could help you defeat the dastardly specter of modernity. Fear not, you say. It might look like we have lost, but the spirit of our friendship may yet save the day, my reptilian friend. This is not the end of our journey. And with these comforting platitudes, you remount John Malcolm's motorcycle and ride off in the sunset. The mountains. After the long day of travel, you arrive at the icy mountains. The great mountains are barren of plants and animal life, yet they are beautiful in their own way, jagged and cragged and rugged, peaked with snow and gouged to the bedrock by merry little streams. But there seems to be nothing that could be useful in defeating the specter of modernity. Well, says your companion, what now? Poor John. I think we should continue, you say humbly. Don't you agree? Jefferson. So it has come to this, the motorcycle riding reptilian sighs. Together we stand at the end of the world, figuratively and literally. Dinosaurians and humankind, united in one last quest to save us all. And our only logical way is forward and onward. You hum in agreement. It is a beautiful thought. I am not sad that it is you I find myself with here, at the end. John Malcolm continues. Just look upon this great otherworldly beauty before us. The specter of modernity only sees the future, but these mountains have seen our... The specter of modernity only sees the future, but these mountains have seen our entire past, and they have never bowed to change. Dear God, aren't they majestic, old friend? You're about to respond, and before you can open your mouth, the ground before you gapes open with a horrendous yet oddly beautiful figure with glowing red eyes and mighty antlers emerges from the depths. Who dares summon the dear god? It howls in a voice echoing as if in a deep cavern. Attempt to explain the misunderstanding. As the dust settles, you see before you a mighty white stag with glowing red eyes and golden antlers. You tremble bodily and quake in your boots as the apparition gazes upon you. Who hath summoned me? The deer booms. What foolish mortal dares to disturb my slumber? Oh, great antlered one, you say earnestly. Your awakening is not the result of intent, but of homophony. Oh, homophones. It said something that sounded like something. The antlered creature cocks its head, and its eyes flash menacingly, but it does not otherwise react. Ask for the dear god's help. We are on a quest to destroy the specter of modernity, and we would ask for your help in our noble cause. Why would I help you, foolish mortal? Talk about umami. Because, you say, clutching your guitar sincerely to your chest. Because of umami? The great antlered one blinks. Come again? Umami, one of the 5 basic tastes? The beast laughs, and it sounds like the mountains are trembling. The very ground rumbles underneath your feet. How foolish of you, Jefferson Goldblum, to think that a herbivore deity could care about the savory taste. Be gone, and don't come back here again, puny human. And with that, the deer god vanishes back into the ground. Well, umami did not save the day. When you approach the lair of the specter of modernity, you decide to leave your companion behind, knowing that you cannot risk another life in this final confrontation. Sometimes heroes have to stand alone. Nuh-uh, you should have help. You have a higher chance of succeeding. Inside the mechanical lair, the specter of modernity waits for you, sitting translucently on a titanium throne. The specter of modernity, you murmur through gritted teeth. We meet at last. You are mistaken, Professor Dr. Goldblum, the specter of modernity says. We have met many times before. I am your father and your mother. Come again? Who do you think inspired you to add the power of electricity to your guitar? Who upgraded Ginny from SD to HD? Who, indeed, deciphered the mathematical secrets of the chords, that arcane knowledge upon which some of your greatest adventurers depend? It was your ally. I was your ally all along, Jefferson. The foul wizard of crime has conspired to turn you against me. It was he who enchanted your klaxon. That actually makes a lot of sense. Sorry. No biggie, says the specter. Now let us defeat the wizard of crime together. Even now he conspires to steal all that you have accomplished with the power of his enchantments that confuse the mind. Back to the Institute. You rush back to the Goldblum Institute, where you find the wizard of crime taking advantage of the absence of your heroic friends, out seeking other ways to stop the specter of modernity, to rifle through your belongings. He is surprised to see you. I see my scheme has failed. Curses. Were it not for that scheming specter, I would have stolen all your wealth and added it to my ever-growing hoard. For that is my scheme, to steal and steal until the whole world is mine. And so you arrest the foul sorcerer instead of the development of human potential, and become good friends with the specter of modernity. Just call me Mo, the specter says. I'm sure we'll all have wonderful adventures together. The end. Just incomprehensible. Actually incomprehensible. What? God, it's the same area as before too. It's just a very startling cat. I think that's everyone.
We must listen to the wisdom of the ancient writers, or we will fail the Founder's trial. The megastructure must be rejected.
Ah. Malduk?
You are the Founder's chosen, but you are in grave danger of going astray. Heed my words, 1K. If you fail this trial, a year from now, New Jerusalem will lie in ruins.
And you know this how?
Anyone can see the truth if they are willing to open their eyes. Have you not read the books of our ancestors? In every one of them, the same story is told, again and again, that the pursuit of knowledge can only lead to death and grief. That is what all the great ancient visionaries foresaw. Listen to their warnings. Seek happiness in tranquility. And avoid ambition.
That can easily become a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you can no longer imagine a better future, you can no longer build one.
The very idea of a better future is what's rotten. That is what the ancients were trying to tell us. All the problems of the world come from those who think the world needs to be improved.
So we shouldn't even try to make things better.
Yes, progress is a fantasy. Things never truly change. All we can do is prevent our hubris from making things worse.
Okay, so not a fan of his thought process as a queer person. Everything should stay the same forever, and you should just get over that and never change anything. Also just an insane level of oversimplification to just be like, yes, the very concept of any kind of gaining of knowledge is what causes the downfall of society. Can only lead to pain and death. I'm like, what about medicine? Checkmate. Will you talk to me now on the way back? It was weird that the mayor just ignored me. Is he here?
1K, could you join us for a quick debrief? Attending today are advisors from engineering, the archive scholars, and Helga.
Yes, don't mind me. I'm just an admirer of governmental transparency.
Yes, well, while the mayor is briefed by Alcatraz, he's asked us to review recent events. Byron's loss has unsettled us all. It may be too dangerous to allow this expedition to continue.
Oh, so your decisions in the first half of the game concerning the secret society people lead to a different party member for the entire rest of the game talking throughout? That'd be really interesting. May not be safe, but we can't leave Byron behind. The island has technology we can't afford to ignore. That island is one big puzzle that's halfway solved. We can't quit now. Byron took risks, we'll be more careful. We're hot on the Founder's heels. We must keep searching. Frankly, it's too dangerous. We should leave the island well alone. It may not be safe, but we can't leave Byron behind.
I agree. We cannot be guided by fear. We must do what's right.
Let's not forget the dam's falling apart. We can't depend on hydro forever. With just a fraction of the power that island can generate, we could grow this city into a planetary society.
Or, quite possibly, destroy ourselves in the process.
Oh, these are very different people. We should trust ourselves to make good of this opportunity.
Wise words from one so young. Yet I submit that island holds secrets far more valuable than mere energy generation.
What could be more important?
The Somnodrome, of course. If we could find a working model, it would herald a sea change in our moral and self-understanding. The question of how we should build New Jerusalem would simply be moot.
I don't like that the person who agrees with me is named Rand, but how? Why?
The Somnodrome was supposed to let us interact with our own subconscious code. It's a cool idea, but it wouldn't necessarily solve all our problems.
My own studies prove that we operate on an intrinsic moral logic. It's what makes us human. But our access to it is only indirect. Our ancestors created art, philosophy, and parable to help bridge that gap. The Somnodrome would help us to cut out the middleman and ask the source directly. We would finally have an answer to the great moral questions.
So, it's a newfangled way to make the same old mistake of judging who's good and who's bad.
We're fortunate 1K preserved the Somnodrome for our study. Initial data suggests it was a prototype with substantial design flaws. but there may be a working device elsewhere on the island.
Then the question is, what would 1K do if they found it?
I would let the scholars investigate.
Yes, our wisdom will be essential in unraveling its secrets.
You're not the only people who can read a line of code, Rand.
You all sound so sure of what's best for this city. Do you ever think you might be so busy changing the world for the better, you'll forget how to see that it's perfect already?
So clearly there are different perspectives in the room. The only way we are going to move forward is if the team gets back out there. 1K, I believe Alcatraz is waiting for you at the VTOL. We'll be keeping an eye on your stream from here.
Huh. Are these characters the options of who I might have been paired with in the previous conversation? It doesn't look like any of them are coming. That's not what's happening here. Is there a follow-up with Jeremy? Doesn't seem like it. So it's Linux, Jeremy, Rand, and Helga. And Jeremy might not count. He might have just always been here. Or he was, but I mean, like, he might have been part of that group. But those might be the people that you were potentially pairing off with, or it might be that only Helga showed up because of that option and everybody else is unrelated. Or it might be coincidence and she's always here. I'm not sure. But those are very different characters than we saw before, that's for sure.